Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Just a quick request, between ayats or pauses, please could you say Subhanallah? It would help me very much in my confidence and obviously gain the swab for it. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم يا أيها الذين آمنوا استعينوا بالصابرين ولا تقولوا لمن يقتل في سبيل الله أموات بل أحياء ولكن لا تشعرون ولنبلونكم بشيء من الأموال ونقص من الأموال والأنفس والثمرات وبشر الصابرين الذين إذا أصابتهم مصيبة قالوا إنا لله وإنا إليه راجعون أولئك عليهم صلوات من ربهم ورحمة وأولئك هم المهتدون بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم سبحان الذي أسرى بعبده ليلا من المسجد الحرام إلى المسجد الأقصى الذي باركنا حوله لنريه من آياتنا إنه هو السميع العليم
अज़ीम।
हज़रात मोहतरम, ये थे हाफिज़ व कारी इमाम साहब जो अपनी प्यारी आवाज़ में वरतिल कुरान तरतीला, कुरान को तरतील के साथ पढ़ो, इसी कानून को मद्देनज़र रखते हुए आप तिलावत फरमा रहे थे। अब आइए नाते रसूल मकबूल सल्लल्लाहु ताला अलैहि वसल्लम पेश करने के लिए हमारी जमात के एक मुमताज़ नात खान बहुत ही दर्द भरे अंदाज में और इश्क के साथ पढ़ने वाले मेरी मुरादें हज़रत मोहम्मद सुफियान सल्लल्लाहु तशरीफ़ लाएं और अपनी प्यारी आवाज़ में नाते रसूल मकबूल सल्लल्लाहु अलैहि वसल्लम पेश फरमाएं।
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi ta'ala wa barakatuh. Just a very small request, if you can please come forward and see a lot of brothers that are just leaning on the walls. I know some have got issues, which I can see from here, but the rest of you, if you can please move forward a little bit. It creates an atmosphere, and as Hafiz said, if you can say Subhanallah, MashaAllah at every opportunity, and join me in praying. But first, let's pray Salatu Salam upon the best of creation, Sayyidina Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. Sallallahu alayka ya Rasulullah, wa sallam alayka ya Habib जिसने तुझको हमतन करम बनाया। नारे तकबीर, नारे रिसालत, उलमाए अहले सुन्नत, नारे तकबीर। Keep praying. Alhamdulillah, as you can see, our guest of honor has arrived. Inshallah, we shall pray a few couplets of this, then a few couplets of Qasida Burda, and then I'll hand over the mic to Imam Sahib. वही रब है जिसने तुझको हमतन करम बनाया, हमें भीख मांगने को तेरा आस्था बताया। तुझे हमद है खुदाया, तुम हाकिमे बनाया। तुम हाकिमे बनाया, तुम्हें कासिमे अताया, तुम्हें कासिमे अताया, तुम्हें दाफ़े बलाया, तुम्हें शाफ़े खताया। कोई तुमसा कौन आया, कोई सा कौन आया, तुझे हमद है खुदाया, तुझे हमद है खुदाया। यही बोले सिदरा वाले, यही बोले सिदरा वाले, चमने जहाँ के ठाने, चमने जहाँ के ठाने, सब मैंने जान डाले, तेरे पाए का ना पाया। तुझे यक ने यक बनाया, तुझे यक ने यक बनाया, तुझे हम हमें ए रज़ा तेरे पता चला बमुश्किल दर रोज़ा के मुकाबिल वो हमें नजर तो आया ये न पूछ कैसा पाया ये न पूछ कैसा पाया तुझे हमद आया तुझे हमद है खुदाया तुझे हमद है खुदाया. Say Subhanallah. Inshallah, finish off with a few couplets of Qasida Burda with a dua for the people of Palestine. Pray with me. Mawlaya salli wa sallim daiman abadan ala habibika khairil khalqi kullihim. Mawlaya salli wa sallim daiman abadan ala habibika khairil khalqi kullihim. Ya Allah, free Palestine. Ya Allah, free Palestine. Ya Allah, free Palestine. Ya Allah, free Palestine. Oh Mustafa, have mercy upon the people of Aqsa. Give them patience and tranquility and free Palestine. Oh Mustafa, have mercy upon the people of Gaza. Give them patience and tranquility and free Palestine. Oh Mustafa, have mercy and banish the oppressors. We make dua to safeguard Aqsa and free Palestine. Ya Akram al-Khalqi mali man aludhu bihi siwaka indahu lulil hadith al-amami. Ya Allah, free Palestine. Ya Allah, free Palestine. Ya Allah, free Palestine. Ya Allah, free Palestine. Oh Mustafa, through your blessing, unite the mu'minun. Grant steadfastness to all your ummah and free Palestine. Oh Mustafa, have mercy. We have no one, only thee. Protect Gaza and all its people and free Palestine. واغفر إلهي لكل المسلمين بما يتلون في المسجد الأقصى وفي الحرم. يا الله, free Palestine. Ya Allah, free Palestine. Ya Allah, free Palestine. Ya Allah, free Palestine. Oh Mustafa, have mercy for the sake of your family. Send an Saladin and free Palestine, O Mustafa, have mercy for the sake of Ghawthul Wara, send an Umar, O Saladin and free Palestine, Ya Rabbi bil Mustafa, بلغ مقاصدنا واغفر لنا ما مضى يا واسع الكرم يا الله. Free Palestine, Ya Allah. Free Palestine, Ya Allah. Free Palestine, Ya Allah. Free Palestine. مولاي صل وسلم دائما أبدا على حبيبك خير الخلق كلهم.
हज़रात मोहतरम, दुआ कर अल्लाह तबारक व तआला फ़लस्तीन के मुसलमानों को कुल्लियतन आज़ादी अता फरमाए। अल्लाह तबारक व तआला से फ्रीडम फरमाए। उन जालिमों के जुल्म सितम से अल्लाह तबारक व तआला उन्हें रिहाई और जता फरमाए। हज़रात मोहतरम, ये थे अली जनाब हज़रत मोहम्मद सुफियान गौर जी सल्लमहु, जो बड़ी प्यारी आवाज़ में नाते रसूल मकबूल सल्लल्लाहु ताला अलैहि वालिही वसल्लम पेश फरमा रहे थे। हज़रात गिरामी, हमारी जमात के एक मशहूर व मारूफ आलिम दीन, फाजिल नौजवान, फसीहुल लिसान, अबलगुल कलाम, हज़रत अल्लामा मौलाना इमाम आदिल शहजाद साहब किबला से मैं गुजारिश करूंगा कि हज़रत वाला आप तशरीफ लाएं और आपके नूरानी, ईमानी, इरफानी, हक्कानी बयान से सामईन के क़ुलूबों को मुनव्वर व मुजल्ला फरमाएं। तो आइए हज़रत वाला हमसे खिताब फरमाएं। उसे कब्ल हमारे मुअज़्ज़ज़ व मुकर्रम का इस्तक़बाल नारे तकबीर व नारे रिसालत से करें। नारे तकबीर, नारे रिसालत, नारे रिसालत। उलमाए अहले सुन्नत, उलमाए अहले सुन्नत, मस्जिद गौसिया, मस्जिद गौसिया। नारे तकबीर, नारे रिसालत।
बिस्मिल्लाहि वल्हम्दुलिल्लाहि वस्सलातु वस्सलामु अला रसूलिल्लाहि सल्लल्लाहु अलैहि व आलिहि वसल्लम। अल्लाहु रब्बु मुहम्मदिन सल्लल्लाहु अलैहि वसल्लम। नहनु इबादु मुहम्मदिन सल्लल्लाहु अलैहि वसल्लम। उस गली का गदा हूँ मैं जिसमें मांगते ताजदार फिरते हैं, जो तेरे उन्हें जाना उन्हें माना, ना रखा गैर से काम, लिल्लाहिल हम्द में दुनिया से मुसलमान गया। Honorable and respectable elders, brothers and sisters, lovable youngsters, those who are mawjood and present at this moment in time in Masjid Ghawsiya here in Blackburn, or those who are watching live on social media, to each and every one of you, Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. I hope and pray each and every one of you are in the best state of iman and health, From the outset, I want to take this opportunity to express my gratitude to the Intizamiya of this masjid, the A'imma Hazrat, or bil khusus, a very sincere, dear friend, Muhtaram Hafiz Asif Sahab, for inviting me here to the aforementioned masjid. My first time here in a formal capacity. Though alhamdulillah, I've been to this masjid a few times to read my salah or to meet the A'imma Hazrat bil khusus, Mufti Nizamuddin Misbahi Sahib Mandazillahul Ali. But nevertheless, without any further delay, we will turn our attentions towards this evening's discussion, which will take around an hour and 10 minutes. I apologize for my slight lateness. I've just drove 120 miles to be with you from Telford. And that was Masjid Ghosiyah as well. United for Palestine conference after Salatul Zuhr prayer. And we delivered the very same PowerPoint that I'm going to share with you this evening last night in Masjid Quba in Stockport. And this is literally 48 hours after I've returned from Al-Madinatul Munawwarah. So we come with blessings and faizan and barakat from the city of the Rasul sallallahu alayhi wa alihi wa sallam. And without doubt, wherever we went, whether it was in Makkatul Mukarramah or Al-Madinatul Munawwarah, our du'as were with the Palestinian brothers and sisters that Allah Almighty remove their suffering, alleviate their difficulties and hardships. As it stands, just over 20,000 Muslims, brothers and sisters, have been martyred and have innocently lost their lives in Gaza, in Palestine. 70% of them are women and children. Over 1.5 million Muslims and those living in Gaza have been displaced from their homes, and their houses have been destroyed. And it was on Friday that the oldest masjid in Gaza was destroyed by the Zionist government of Israel. Nevertheless, in order to understand the current situation, which, despite the efforts of Western media, didn't begin on the 7th of October, we have to go back into history to understand the significance and the importance of Palestine and what it means to you and me as Muslims. So as you can see here, the intention is not only to go through a brief history of how the Muslims conquered Baytul Maqdis, but also how it was taken from Muslim hands and what we can do today. So quite a lot for us to get through. Our discussion begins with Jerusalem, Al-Quds Sharif. Without doubt, the most popular and well-known land in Palestine, and one of the oldest cities of the world, and is considered holy by all of the Abrahamic faiths. Not just the Muslims, but also the Orthodox Jews and Christians as well. So one of the oldest cities in the world is Jerusalem. And we refer to it often as Al-Quds. Al-Quds meaning the Holy One. And of course it is the location of Al-Masjid Al-Aqsa, the third holiest place in the Islamic world. Many prophets and companions of Tajdar Madina Rasul Akram sallallahu alayhi wasallam lived their lives and are today buried in Jerusalem. This is why this land is referred to as the land of the prophets, Baladul Anbiya or Ardul Anbiya. Sayyidina Isa alayhi salam was born in this blessed land, the land of Palestine. Ibrahim alayhi salam spent many years of his life in this land, and many great prophets. And then of course, the Azim Jama'at of the Sahaba Ikram. Nabi Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam said, Khayrun Nasi Qarni, Thumma alladhina yalunahum, Thumma alladhina yalunahum. Narration mentioned in Bukhari Sharif that Do Jahan ke Wali Rahmatul Lil Alameen said, the best of people are my generation, then the generation after them, and then the generation after them. Yani the first three generations referred to as the Salaf al-Salihin. So the first generation, the best of generations, the generation of the Sahaba Ridwanullahi Ta'ala Alayhim Ajma'een. And from amongst the Sahaba, Hazrat Abu Ubaidah ibn al-Jarrah radiyallahu ta'ala anhu, who is one of the Ashara Mubashara. He lived in Al-Quds Sharif. Hazrat Tamim al-Dari radiyallahu ta'ala anhu, Jaleel Qadr Sahabi Rasul sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, who, for those of you who are acquainted with your basics of the deen, will know that this particular companion actually saw Dajjal, the Antichrist, on a remote island, chained and shackled. And after seeing him, came back and asked the Prophet ﷺ, who is it that I saw? That narration's mafhum. And Nabi Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam said that you saw the greatest fitna to not only afflict this ummah, but all of the nations, and that is the fitna of Dajjal. That Sahabi spent the vast majority of his life in Palestine, in Jerusalem. Two companions, for those of you who have been will know, are resting in the Qabristan adjacent, next to Al-Masjid Al-Aqsa. Hazrat Shaddad ibn Aus radiyallahu ta'ala anhu, and Hazrat Ubadah ibn Swamit radiyallahu ta'ala anhu. Sayyidina Bilal al-Habshi is reported to have spent some years here in Jerusalem as well. So this is the land of the prophets and the land of the noble companions of Rasul Akram sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. And it is the land where the Muslims will be raised and gathered on the day of resurrection. What we refer to as Maidan Mahshar. Nabi Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam referred to the plains of Mahshar, either figuratively or literally, being from amongst the land of Ash-Sham. And no doubt Palestine is within the land of Ash-Sham, as is Jordan and Syria and Levant. So this land, the land of Palestine, is the land where you and me will be gathered upon on the day of resurrection. That day, Khamsina Alfa Sanatin, Surah number 70, verse number 4, Allah Almighty says that day will be 50,000 years long. On that day, Dud ka Dud, Pani ka Pani, فَمَنْ يَعْمَلْ مِثْقَالَ ذَرَّةٍ خَيْرًا يَرَى وَمَنْ يَعْمَلْ مِثْقَالَ ذَرَّةٍ شَرًّا يَرَى. What they think they can get away with today, no doubt they will be held to account in regards to every action and every statement on the day of resurrection. And as will you and me as well. And further to this, a famous narration no doubt you would have heard. The Do Jahan ke Wali Rahmatul Lil Alameen said regarding Al-Masjid Al-Aqsa and its surrounding areas, that there is not a single inch in Al-Quds where a prophet has not prayed and where an angel has not stood. These are not my words or the words of the ulama haqqa of the Ahl Sunnati wal Jama'ah. These are the words of Rasul Akram sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. وَمَا يَنْطِقُ عَنِ الْهَوَىٰ In huwa illa wahyun yuha. Surah number 53, verses 3 and 4. Whenever the Messenger of Allah sallallahu alaihi wasallam would speak, he would never speak out of his own desire. Rather, he would speak through direct revelation from Allah Almighty Jalla wa Ala. So what you and me consider to be not as significant in terms of the area and the land, this land and this area, Al-Quds Sharif, Al-Masjid Al-Aqsa, Palestine, no doubt this is Muqaddas and Musharraf, and has been made sacred and has been made holy by none other than Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. We're going to go one step further than that in a short while. Further to this, to conclude this opening slide, the history of Jerusalem has a long history. Twice this city has been destroyed. 23 times it's been besieged. 52 times the city of Jerusalem has been attacked. And it has been recaptured 44 times. So this affiliation and the history of Palestine, and certainly what's happening now, didn't start on the 7th of October. We can see just from the opening slide how sacred this area and land is, and how this city is one of the oldest cities in the world and has an extremely long history. I don't expect you to remember all of these numbers. We're only good for remembering the PIN to our card when we go to the ATM machine. But if you want this PowerPoint presentation afterwards, I've already WhatsApped it to Hafiz Asif, so you can harass him. So there's 25 slides for us to go through. So this is the first slide. Further to this, we have Al-Masjid Al-Aqsa. This is a misconception amongst many, and even some of you who are sat here probably assume the same thing, that the Dome of the Rock Masjid is Al-Masjid Al-Aqsa. If this is your understanding, then you would be wrong. Qubbatu Sakhra is not Al-Masjid Al-Aqsa. Others assume that Masjid Al-Qibli, the Great Dome Masjid, where predominantly the men pray. For those of you who have been, you will know, people assume, misconception, that this is Al-Masjid Al-Aqsa. Again, you would be wrong. Rather, this entire complex and sanctuary, which is surrounded here by this white line, this is Al-Masjid Al-Aqsa. I'm not going to ask you to put your hands up on how many of you thought that the Dome of the Rock was Al-Masjid Al-Aqsa or Masjid Al-Qibli. Maybe those of you who are under 16 who are only familiar with the images of these two masajid. Maybe this was in your mind. But this entire area and land, which is just over half a mile from east to west, north to south, a very beautiful area. Those of you who have been again will know. Just for my knowledge, how many of you have actually been to Al-Masjid Al-Aqsa? MashaAllah. I would expect higher numbers in Blackburn, Bolton, Preston. Yesterday in Stockport, out of the Majma that got together, only 2 people had been. Hamari badkismati. That as soon as we as youngsters get a bit of money, a bit of peace, then what do? We book our holiday to Antalya. Or we book our holidays to Dubai. Very rarely you'll find some people who will actually go towards Makkatul Mukarramah, Al-Madinatul Munawwara. Certainly it's unheard of, 2023, that our youngsters go to Al-Masjid Al-Aqsa because of the propaganda that the Western media is guilty of, and that they've scaremongered us into thinking that if you go there, that you're going to be obliterated by bombs that are coming from every direction, or they're going to keep you for a few hours at the airport. Are they so what? They're going to keep you for a few hours at the airport? So what? What's a few hours in return for walking on the very same land that the Anbiya wal Mursaleen? Alhamdulillah, I've been 5 times. And if it wasn't for the current situation, we were due to take a group again in February. But chalo, let's see what happens. So here, Pegham is what? That as soon as the situation improves, don't delay, book your ticket straight away. Inshallah. Yes? And then further to this, of course you know this, or you should, that Al-Masjid Al-Aqsa, the image that we've just seen, it is the first Qibla of the Muslims. The first Qibla of the... For around 17, 18 months, the Prophet ﷺ and the Sahaba Ikram were facing the direction of Al-Masjid Al-Aqsa. Until one day, the place where today stands Masjid Al-Qiblatayn, Nabi Sallallahu was offering Salatul Zuhr prayer in the direction of Al-Aqsa, which is that way, 180 degrees from Makkah al-Mukarramah. قَدْ نَرَى تَقَلُّبَ وَجْهِكَ فِي السَّمَاءِ فَلَنُوَلِّيَنَّكَ قِبْلَةً تَرْضَاهَا. Beginning of the second spara. Allah Almighty says that, oh my beloved Habib, we see that your eyes are constantly glancing towards the heavens. So change the direction of the prayer, change the direction of Qibla, where you are pleased and happy. Khuda ki raza chahte hai to aalam, Khuda chahta hai razai Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Bas? Nabi Sallallahu alaihi wasallam during the Salah, Salatul Zuhr prayer it was. 2 units offered in the direction of Al-Masjid Al-Aqsa during the Salah. Whilst leading the Jama'at, Nabi Sallallahu alaihi wasallam changed the direction of Qibla to Al-Masjid Al-Haram, yani the Kaaba Sharifa. And the Sahaba without hesitation, today they say, oh, you shouldn't think of the Prophet Sallallahu alaihi wasallam in your Salah. Maybe your Salah will become invalid. Then what would you say about those Sahaba who without hesitation, Nabi Sallallahu alaihi wasallam changed the direction of Qibla. They didn't think to themselves, oh, maybe we should wait until the Salah is over, then get clarification from the Prophet Sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Without hesitation, those Sahaba also follow lead and they change the direction of the Qibla. Yahi fark hai na between a Sahabi and a Wahabi. It's my first time, I hope it's not my last time. Allah. आजकल लोग sensitive हो जाते हैं. No, you shouldn't share anything to anyone. You shouldn't offend anyone. Everyone has their rights, huh? Those people only have rights when they fulfill the rights of Rasulullah. When they uphold the honor and the reverence of Rasulullah. When they preserve Namus Risalat and Aqidah Khatm Nabuwwat. Only they have rights. When the rest of them, Imam Malik ka fatwa hai na, that when the honor of the Prophet ﷺ is compromised, if nobody speaks up from the Ummah, then it's better for the whole Ummah to die. And these individuals are guilty. Wahhabiyya, Salafiyya, Deobandiyya, guilty of insulting the Prophet ﷺ. Enemies and dushmanan of Islam from within. So people want to push the problem under the carpet. Why? Mera chacha lagna ji, or mera maa mera putra hai na. He's my boy. I can't leave him. So your friendship and your blood relations mean more to you, and you are more loyal to them than you are to Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Without going down that flex. Warna wo bhi hamare ko is alhamdulillah. You shouldn't compromise your morals and your principles just for friendship and for family and for wealth and for status. Nothing is more important than the honor of Rasulullah. Everything is for and everything is about Rasulullah. So the first Qibla of the Muslims, it is the second masjid in the world originally built by Adam al-Islam. 40 years after he built the Kaaba Sharifa. So Al-Masjid Al-Haram was built first, and then 40 years after, Al-Masjid Al-Aqsa was built. The second masjid to be built on the face of this earth. And then the third key point here in relation to Al-Masjid Al-Aqsa, to highlight its importance and its significance, is that it is the third holiest place in Islam, as you've already mentioned, after Al-Masjid Al-Haram and Al-Masjid Al-Nabawi Sharif in Al-Madinah Al-Munawwara. So the reality is what Ibn Abidin al-Shami mentioned in the Fatawa, and other great Hanafi jurists, fuqaha, they've also mentioned this as well. That yes, Makkatul Mukarramah is afdal. It has the Ka'batul Sharifa, Al-Hajr Al-Aswad, Inna Safa wal Marwata min sha'airillah. It has Mina, Arafat, Muzdalfa. Lekin, that blessed soil, that blessed Mitti Mubarak, which is touching the Jism Abhar of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, our ulama have said that that blessed soil is more afdal and a'la than the arsh of Allah Almighty Jalla wa Ala. More afdal and a'la than the kursi, more afdal and a'la than the Ka'batul Sharifa. Which soil? That blessed soil which is touching the Jism Abhar, the noble and purified body of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Yenama bayna bayti wa minbari rawdatun min riyadil Jannah. We're not going to expand upon all of this. Yes, we're talking about the history of Palestine, and you can see here the Saath are also doing ilaj of any batil i'tiqad that you might have. Aqidah comes first, everything else comes after. Everything else comes after. So here also there is that narration as well in Bukhari Sharif where Nabi Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam said visit 3 places, 3 masajid. Al-Masjidul Haram, Al-Masjidul Nabawi Sharif, and Al-Masjidul Aqsa. We've already highlighted the importance, but as soon as the situation improves, don't delay, book your ticket straight away. One prayer in Al-Masjidul Aqsa is equivalent to 500 prayers. You come here to Ghosya Masjid, you read your Salah Jama'at, then the reward is increased by 20 to 25 to 27. You won't find this azaz anywhere else. After Al-Masjidul Haram and Al-Masjidul Nabawi Sharif, you won't find this azaz anywhere else other than Al-Masjidul Aqsa. 500 prayers, one prayer is equal to, equivalent to. And again, those of you who have been will recall and you will attest to this, that the Palestinians are not in need of our money. This is why I'm very skeptical about these people who are fundraising now, without saying too much. Be careful who you give your money to, verify it. Yeni Masjid people are raising money for the Muslims in Gaza, in Palestine, and we, because of the emotional attachment, give tens of thousands, and then we don't do our due diligence, we don't ask the questions, has the money actually reached those in need? ऐसा बस एतिमाद रखने या भरोसा रखने या पैसे लपराई होने या ना कोई पूछने या ना कोई पालने या इस तरह नहीं होना चाहिए. You should do your due diligence, and then what? Chalo, let's say that money does reach them. But by Allah, the Palestinians are not in need of my money and your money. Du'as, alhamdulillah, du'as, weapon of the believer. Ad-du'a silahul mu'min. When you speak to the Palestinians, what do they say? They say, go back and tell your brothers and your family members and your friends that come and visit us here in Palestine. You know the agenda of the Zionists, that they want to destroy Al-Masjid al-Aqsa, bulldoze it, destroy its foundations, and establish what they refer to as Temple Mount there. Frantically looking for the books of Sulaiman alayhi salam and his father Dawood alayhi salam. And we find now today certain preachers and speakers as well. One from America in particular, Hamza Yusuf, making this open suggestion that Muslims get emotional over Al-Aqsa. Maybe we should sacrifice some part of Al-Masjid Al-Aqsa, give it to the Jews. Masla hal ho jasi. Ajeeb baat hai yaar. How can anyone possibly make this suggestion? That this attachment with Al-Aqsa isn't an emotional attachment. This attachment with Al-Aqsa is an attachment of our iman. Ye iman ka masla hai. Ye siyasi masla nahi. Because they are our favorite speakers and favorite scholars. And no scholar is infallible. No peer or no sheikh is ma'soom. Even I'm guilty of making mistakes. No one's perfect. But for somebody to make this suggestion that Muslims have an emotional attachment with Al-Aqsa, you've got it wrong. It's not an emotional attachment. This attachment is an attachment of Iman. Ye Iman ka masla hai. So make effort to visit Al-Masjid Al-Aqsa. Further to this, of course you know that in the Quran Allah Almighty says what? Beginning of the 15th juz, opening verse of the 17th surah. Everyone's familiar with the verse. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم سبحان الذي أسرى بعبده ليلا من المسجد الحرام إلى المسجد الأقصى الذي باركنا حوله لنريه من آياتنا إنه هو السميع البصير. So alongside Al-Masjid Al-Haram, Al-Masjid Al-Aqsa is the only masjid mentioned by name in the Quran. This is our attachment to this masjid. This is the affiliation that we have to Al-Masjid Al-Aqsa. Not only is its significance highlighted through the words of the Prophet ﷺ, which we mentioned in the opening slide, but here, Nasul Quran, explicit text from Al-Quran Al-Kareem, which mentions Al-Masjid Al-Aqsa. But the Saudis recently translated the Quran into the Hebrew language. And under this ayat of the Quran, they changed the meaning of Al-Masjid Al-Aqsa to Temple Mount. Did you know this? And I've just come from there. Not a single mention of Palestine. We go to some shops and businesses and takeaways here. I salute those businessmen who have boycotted Coca-Cola, is it? Coke and Pepsi and certain drinks. Even though it's affecting the revenue and income and the business probably goes down. But when you go to Saudi Arabia, Makkah Sharif, Medina Sharif, and you walk through the shopping malls like the one in the clock tower or Bin Dawood, rather than mentioning Palestine, you find these Nadan selling Christmas decorations now. I've just been, last week I was there. The Saudi government, everyone knows the agenda, spending billions upon billions of riyals and dollars on the Saudi Pro League, on WWE stars having wrestling matches in Jeddah, entertainment, music, all these things are happening before our very eyes. But those very same Saudis cannot even spend 1 riyal and provide a bottle of water for the children of Gaza. We find some Sunni Muslims as well, Awam from amongst the public, and Awam today we have from amongst the Khawas as well. Those will do Ilan and do Eid with the Saudis as well. Without mentioning names, I don't want it to be too controversial. You know who they are, sellouts. And then you have those people who 364 days of the year they read their masjid in, they read their salah in Ghosya Masjid. Because Eid has been announced a day early and it suits their work schedule, they'll go and read Eid salah with them. Yahi baat hai na? Parshan nazar aa rahe ho. And I've caught you out somewhere. But nahi yaar, I'm not talking about you. You know who they are. Miyar paida karo, have some principles that you live by. Varna yaar, kya maqsad hai zindagi ka? That a person can't live by any principles. Principles for you and me which are established upon Quran and Sunnah. This is why the Prophet ﷺ said, "Taraktu fikum amrayn, lan tadillu ma masaktum bihima, kitab Allahi wa sunnat nabiyhi sallallahu alaihi wasallam." Muwatta Imam Malik Sharif ki riwayat. Nabi sallallahu alaihi wasallam said, "I left you two things. I leave you two things. If you hold on to them firmly, you will never go astray. Number one is the book of Allah. Number two is the Sunnah of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam." And yes, there is that narration in the Mustadrak of Imam Hakim before my fan club have a field day and the Nara gets tight. And yes, Nabi Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam said what? And then hold on to the book of Allah and hold on to my family as well. وَعِدْرَقِي أَهْلَ بَيْتِي. No one's negating that narration. But here we're talking about the significance and importance of Quran and Sunnah. And you and me need to go back to Quran and Sunnah. So here, Subhanalladhi asra bi'abdihi. Achha, under this ayat of the Quran, Alama Qurtubi. Alama, also the yad rakho. Alama Qurtubi, great Muslim scholar, mufassir of the Quran, from Muslim Spain. The Muslims ruled over Spain for 800 years. We don't know our history. Our youngsters are more acquainted with the history of the Romans and the Egyptians and what happened in World War I and World War II. You ask these youngsters about their history regarding Islam, no idea. You ask the parents today, no idea. But we should know about our history. It is through our history that we are able to rectify what's happening now, and we're able to improve what's going to happen in the future. History teaches you and me lessons that we can learn, lessons that will benefit us under this ayat of the Quran. Allama Qurtubi rahmatullahi ta'ala alayh. In the Al-Jami'u li Ahkam al-Quran, the tafsir, they write here, Barakna hawlahu li nuriyahu min ayatina. Which in English here we translate as what? In whose surroundings we have blessed in order to show him of our signs. Yani Nabi Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam was taken on the night of Al-Isra wal Mi'raj. Yani Al-Aqsa, Jerusalem, is the land of Al-Isra wal Mi'raj. It is the station of Al-Isra wal Mi'raj. It is the maqam of Al-Isra wal Mi'raj. Yes, Nabi Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam was taken. Or ye we have, before I get to that point. Bi'abdi, he suggests, and ulama here, like Mullah Jivan rahmatullah alayh, in the Tafsir Ahmadiyya, they mention what? That bi'abdihi clearly here gives us our aqidah. That Nabi Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam wasn't taken on this miraculous night journey by way of a dream. And it wasn't his soul or his spirit that just made this journey. Rather, al-jasadu ma'ar-ruh. The Prophet Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam went on this miraculous night journey from Al-Masjid Al-Haram to Al-Masjid Al-Aqsa, then from Al-Masjid Al-Aqsa through the heavenly world until he got to Sidratul Muntaha and he went beyond. Our ulama said that this was with body and spirit. Body and spirit. हमारे जैसे हैं जी, हमारे जैसे हैं, शाबाश है. The Prophet Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam like you and me? Astaghfirullah. Yes, he's a human being, but not like any ordinary human being. Just like a diamond is a stone, but not like any ordinary stone. This is one of the greatest innovations of our time. They talk about bid'at, bid'ah. This is the greatest bid'at of our time. How dare you look to lower the status of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. We don't say he's God. We don't say he's the son of God. But no doubt he's rahmatan lil alameen. No doubt he's khatamun nabiyyin. No doubt he's shafi'ul mudhnibeen. No doubt he's wajhu takhliq kainat. वो जो ना थे तो कुछ ना था, वो जो ना हो तो कुछ ना हो. जान है वो जहान की, जान है तो जहान है. No doubt he's the one who split the moon into two and put it back together again. No doubt he's the one who put his blessed fingers, placed his blessed fingers inside the bowl, Maqam Hudaybiyah. Water gushed from the fingers of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. That water quenched the thirst of over 1,200 Sahaba Ikram. And then how dare you say he's just like you and me? You see the agenda of these individuals? I've just told you our position. We don't go to one extreme or the other. We don't go to ifrat or tafreet. The way of the Ahl Sunnati wal Jama'ah is the way of equilibrium and balance. Khairul umuri awsatuha. This is why the Prophet ﷺ says the best of ways, the best of matters, the best of affairs is the middle way. We don't go to one extreme or the other. We don't say he's just like a normal human being. And nor do we say that he's God or the Son of God, like the Christians do with Isa alayhi salam. But we understand his maqam wa martaba. And that's the whole purpose of our existence. Salah, zakat, siyam, hajj, umrah, Makkah, Medina, all these things come after. Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam comes first and foremost. Iman mila unke sadqe, Islam mila unke sadqe, Quran mila unke sadqe, Khud Rahman mila unke sadqe. तो क्या है जो हमें पाया नहीं? What is it that the Prophet ﷺ hasn't given you and me? This is the most important rishta that you and me have. And you might say, what about Allah Almighty? You Sunni Brelvis, all you talk about is the Prophet. Ye bhi aajkal itaraz hai na. All you talk about is the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Now you want us to talk about your dad? Teri piyo nahi gal kara na. Who else are we going to talk about? That beloved Prophet who spent his whole life saying Ummati, Ummati. Even on this night, you know, sometimes I'm going off topic. And Imam Sabbas is into second gear now. And now he's lost all of his zulfa from 7 years. And he looks a bit lighter and he looks a bit healthy. And no, yaar. Whether we had our zulfa, whether we've taken them off, our aqidah is still the same, alhamdulillah. That everything is for and everything is about Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Gal sari sarkar. Gal sari sarkar. Even on this night, he didn't forget you and me. Ummati, Ummati. In the majlis of the Anbiya. I don't have the book with me today. Normally I carry it with me. Ash-Shifa bi ta'rifi huquqil Mustafa. Qadi Iyaz mentioned the khutbah of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam that he delivered in the presence of the Anbiya in Al-Masjid Al-Aqsa. Even then he remembered you and me. In the presence of Allah Almighty, he remembered you and me. ثُمَّ دَنَا فَتَدَلَّى فَكَانَ قَامَ قَوْسَيْنِ أَوْ أَدْنَى فَأَوْحَى إِلَىٰ عَبْدِهِ مَا أَوْحَى. You remember the Prophet ﷺ too much, huh? Reality is that we don't remember him enough. We don't remember him enough. We become seasonal lovers. Rabiul Awwal Sharif comes, then yes, we remember him. Huh? Then we have our Na'alain Sharif badge on, and then we're Tanatan Sunni, huh? The Baki Yara Meene were nowhere to be seen. And the same with this Palestine issue. From the 7th of October, first 2 weeks, 3 weeks, 4 weeks, everybody on it like a car bonnet. But now, some people are tired of hearing about the Palestine issue. Some are fatigued of seeing this on their social media feeds and scrolling up on their Facebook news feed or whatever it may be. The Palestinians have not got tired. But on one hand, the IDF and the Zionist government of Israel are bombing them, destroying their houses, making their children shaheed. But on the other hand, they are saying, Alhamdulillah ala kulli hal. So are they not the best of people on the face of this earth? Isn't this what our Iman and our Islam teaches us? That we think that a few slogans that we chant and that's it, a few Milad Sharif gatherings that we attend and that's it, a few books that we study with our teachers and that's it? Allahu Akbar. And then you see videos now. I tend not to look. The heart is not strong enough. But you see some videos now that the houses have been destroyed. In particular, I saw the video as soon as I landed from Medina Sharif. One grandfather calling out to Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Ya Rasulullah, look at the state of your ummah. Look at the state of your ummah. And when you hear these narrations, when you read these narrations, that he spent his whole night on the musalla until the Qadamain Sharifain of the Prophet became swollen. And now you think why he spent his nights on the musalla, making dua for his ummah. Rabbi habli ummati, ummati, ummati. Oh Allah, my nation, my nation. And this is the state of the nation today. But as soon as we mention the Rasul, there he goes again. These Sunni Brelvis have nothing better to do. I'd rather be a Sunni Brelvi than be a Najdi Wahhabi. That as soon as the Prophet ﷺ's name is mentioned, that's it. The complexion on their faces changed. Allahu Akbar. We firmly believe and understand that everything is for and everything is about Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Daladi qalb mein azamat Mustafa Sayyidi Ala Hazrat pe lakho salam. Aajkal ye TikTok पर some people put my clips up, and when I'm a bit bored, I look at the comments. Oh, thank you very much. Somebody who doesn't know how to do istinja properly is talking about me. Somebody who doesn't even know the farais of wudu is giving his 2 pence worth. And not just brothers now, sisters as well. And that this Maulvi is always mad. This Maulvi is always causing divisions. Nobody's causing divisions. We are saying we want unity as well. But we want unity upon the same aqidah as Imam Ali Maqam Nawase Rasul Imam Hussain ibn Ali radiyallahu anhu. Tell me, when was there unity within the Muslim Ummah? When has there ever been unity within the Muslim Ummah? Keri baat karne ho yaar, kis taraf jaa rahe ho? Unity is upon one principle, one moral, one ethic, and one principle only, and that is that we unite in the love and in the honor of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Bas, main to bahut dur chala gaya. I'm still on my third slide. Allama Qurtubi rahmatullah alayhi, they say what? Barakna hawlahu linuriyahu min ayatina. This doesn't just mean Al-Masjid Al-Aqsa. This doesn't just mean Jerusalem. Like in Allama Qurtubi go one step further. They say it starts from Al-Masjid Al-Aqsa and it goes all the way to Khalil, Hebron. Again, those of you would have been to Al-Masjid Ibrahimi, right? Where you have the maqam of Ibrahim al-Islam and their wife Sayyidah Sarah salamullah alayha, Sayyidina Ishaq al-Islam and their wife Sayyidah Rifqa salamullah alayha. That's in the Muslim quarter of the masjid. And then in the Jewish quarter of the masjid, yani what's under the control of the Jews, you have Sayyidina Yaqub al-Islam and his son Sayyidina Yusuf al-Islam. Yahi baat hai na? So Allama Qurtubi says, again, don't underestimate the words of Allah Almighty here for any reason whatsoever. If somebody says, what's the significance of Al-Aqsa? This is where we start. This is where we start. Barakna hawlahu linuriyahu min ayatina. The Nabi Sallallahu of that night was shown the surroundings which Allah Almighty has blessed. They are muqaddas, they are musharraf. The blessings of this area, this land is not just in Al-Aqsa and Jerusalem, but according to Allama Qurtubi, it goes all the way to Hebron, Khalil, which is around 45 minutes, 1 hour from Jerusalem by coach. Yahi baat hai na? Allahu Akbar. Not just Jerusalem, but Gird, all of the land and area, it is muqaddas and musharraf. So this was in light of the Quran, in light of some ahadith mubarakah, after 20 minutes, half an hour. Now we go into history, tarikh. Nabi Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam left this dunya in the year 11 after Hijrah. Was physically veiled. We don't say he died. We don't say he passed away. The English language does not do it. Our beloved Prophet, our Prophet is Tu zinda hai wallah. Tu zinda hai wallah. Mere chashme alam se shub jane wale. Our rishta with Nabi Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam isn't that we are alive and then ma'adallah, thumma ma'adallah, that he is dead. No, the Prophet is alive, we are dead. We are dead. And we only become alive when we attach ourselves and connect ourselves with Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Bas. You might say, ye to chalo josh ki baat hai na, ye to ala hazrat ka shair hai na. Aqeedah can't be established upon poetry. Theek hai, I'll give you dalil as well from Quran and Sunnah. Say sirf ek dalil related to what we're discussing. On the way to Al-Masjid Al-Aqsa, whilst Nabi Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam was upon the Buraq, Nabi Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam passed by the grave of Sayyiduna Musa alayhi salam. Sayyiduna wa huwa qa'imun yusalli fi qabrihi. और ये सही मुस्लिम शरीफ की रिवायत मैं जिम्मेदार हूं ना सही मुस्लिम शरीफ की रिवायत मूसा अलैहिस्सलाम was standing in his grave. Musa अलैहिस्सलाम was praying in his grave. Musa अलैहिस्सलाम who left this dunya 2000 years before the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, standing in his grave, praying in his grave. Maqam Nabi Musa, no doubt you would have been to the masjid, those of you who have been to the blessed lands. Allahu Akbar walillahi alhamd. So never ever have this assumption of thinking, and I'm touching upon this more so because I see a lot of youngsters there in my right hand corner and towards the back of the masjid over there. Youngsters over here as well, apart from those who have fallen asleep. Give him a nudge, will you? I'm not that boring. You who? Sweetie? Wakey. So my youngsters have this confidence. Our Aqeedah isn't just plucked out of thin air. Our Aqeedah is established upon Nassul Quran. Our Aqeedah is established upon a Hadith Mubarakah which have reached the level of Sahih. Allahu Akbar. Have this confidence. And if there's any aspect of your Aqeedah that you don't know, then you should ask your ulama. You should verify from them. فَاسْأَلُوا أَهْلَ الذِّكْرِ إِن كُنْتُمْ لَا تَعْلَمُونَ. Like I've already alluded to, people rely on videos on Instagram and TikTok, is it? TikTok? बड़े जल्दी बोलियो TikTok. इतना दूसरे लुक में देने से तैयार हो ना? TikTok, huh? But you waste our days and nights just scrolling up and down those things. And some of us are relying on our Islamic knowledge and our understanding of the deen based upon these TikTok preachers and speakers. And most of them who don't speak in favor of the Palestinians. These Najdis and Wahhabis, the Dawa men. But before I get overexcited. So here, after the Prophet ﷺ, the Zahri Parda from this dunya, then we have the Dawr-e Khilafat of Khalifa Awwal Bila Fasal, Sayyiduna wa Mawlana wa Khayruna Abu Bakr as-Siddiq radiyallahu ta'ala anhu. Afdal al-Bashar, Ba'd al-Anbiya bil-Tahqiq. Sayyiduna Abu Bakr as-Siddiq's Dawr Khilafat lasted for 2 years and 2 months. Then was the Dawr Khilafat of Amirul Mu'mineen Sayyidina Umar Farooq radiyallahu ta'ala anhu. Can anyone tell me from the crowd, how many years did Sayyidina Umar rule over the believers? Ji? Oh, just less than that. 10 years. But well done for this trying. Baki ta wo pareshan ho gaye sir. If you didn't have the knowledge, this is what's the problem. Just in case you think. And I'm not going to go off onto a rant here. Insan ke liye ishara hi kafi hai na. We're just good for gatherings of na'ats, I'm sorry to say. Nothing against them gatherings. Alhamdulillah, we attend ourselves. But if we as Muslims don't even know the basics of our deen, the Sayyidina Umar Farooq's Dawr Khilafat lasted for 10 years. Then where do we stand? And then after, just for your knowledge, after Sayyidina Umar Farooq radiyallahu ta'ala anhu was the Dawr Khilafat of Sayyidina Uthman Ghani, Dhun Nurayn radiyallahu ta'ala. How long did Sayyidina Uthman rule over the believers? Ji? 4, 8, 12 years. These are basics of our deen. It's nothing to be laughing about or looking around. And you should be ashamed if you ask me. We should be embarrassed. And when we go down this line and this route, then people say, oh, Imam Sahib's hard line. Oh, it's okay, we don't really like that approach. Look, this is where we stand. And Imam says, oh, you caught us on the spot. We're not prepared for it. I'm not asking you GCSE questions here. I'm not asking you A-level questions here. The basic knowledge that you should have as parents, that you should give to your children. Lekin nahi yaar. When it comes to the basics of our deen, we are very far from where we need to be. And then came the Dawr Khilafat of Sayyidina Ali Murtaza, Mushkil Kusha, Sher-e Huda, Karram Allahu Ta'ala Wajhul Kareem. Sayyidina Ali Murtaza ruled over the Muslims for 5 years. And then within his Dawr Khilafat is included the 6 months of his son, Nawase Rasool, Nabi Ka Noor Ain, Sayyidina Imam Hassan Mujtaba radiyallahu ta'ala. Kya baat hai Raza? Kya baat hai Raza? उस चमनिस्ताने करम की ज़हरा है कली जिसमें हुसैन और हसन फूला हक चारिया नारे तहकीक नहीं मजा आ रहा हूँ नाराज हो गया ना वो फिर वो एक स्वीटी स्वीटी गाल होनी पैसी ना नारे तहकीक हक चारिया तो ये सिर्फ नारा सिर्फ नहीं लाना study their lives as well very quickly picking up the speed here Sayyidina Umar Farooq, he was received in Jerusalem with his army of Sahaba. Did you know that when Sayyidina Umar entered into Jerusalem, he had with him 40,000 companions of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Can you imagine? 40,000 companions, Sahaba Ikram of Rasul Akram sallallahu alaihi wasallam accompanied Sayyidina Umar. Yani the Christian leaders, priests, rulers, they said, we'll only give the keys if your leader Umar Farooq comes and receives and collects the keys from us. Sayyidina Abu Ubaidah ibn al-Jarrah who was in Jerusalem at the time. He sends a letter to Sayyidina Umar Farooq. The Ya Amir al-Mu'mineen, this is what they are saying, that if you come, then they will give the keys to us, the keys to Jerusalem. So Sayyidina Umar without hesitation, Medina Sharif ki tha, Jerusalem ki tha. Us doro zamane koi na train si, na plane si, na bus si, no cars, nothing like this. They used to travel by camel or horse. And Sayyidina Umar with his ghulam, his servant, between the two of them, one camel. You've heard this, right? And then they shared the camel. That sometimes the ghulam would be on the camel, Sayyidina Umar would hold on to the reins. Look at the equality in Islam. Look at the justice in Islam. Not like the hukmaran of today. Ishara kafiya na. These are asal hukmaran. Oh Allah, bless us with the likes of Umar Farooq once again. Ye asal hukumat hai. The Sayyidina Umar would hold on to the reins. Ghulam would sit on the camel. And then you had Sayyidina Umar sitting on the camel. Ghulam would hold on to the reins. It happened to be the case that when they entered from the east side of Al-Masjid of Jerusalem, where we have Jabal Mukabbir, yani the mountain of Takbir, where Sayyidina Umar raised the slogan. It happened to be the case that Sayyidina Umar was holding on to the reins and the ghulam was sat on the camel. It wasn't a case that they stood behind the corner before they went in and made their grand entrance and said, Umar says, you get off, I'm going to. No. Look at the equality here. This is what you call true leadership. They raise the slogan of Takbir and they enter into Jerusalem. And then Sayyidina Umar had to go and perform wudu. This is mentioned in the books of history as well. And Sayyidina Umar, for the simplicity and the sadaqi, what did they do? They placed their mukassins on their shoulders. They placed their leather socks, their mukassins on the shoulders. And Sayyidina Abu Ubaidah ibn al-Jarrah radiyallahu ta'ala anhu, he said that, Ya Amir al-Mu'mineen, in my words I'm saying, I hope you don't mind me saying, that you can't go and meet the Christian leaders and priests with mokassins on your shoulders. Sayyidina Umar responded by saying what? That, oh Abu Ubaidah, if it was anyone else who said this to me, I would have held them to account. I would have held them to account. Need I remind you of the fact that before Islam we couldn't even line a row of camels in a straight line. Islam has given us this honor. Islam has given us this izzat. And you're talking about me walking and taking the keys of Jerusalem with my mukassins on? Allahu Akbar. Ye asal hukumat hai. These are our true leaders. These are our true role models. Sayyidina Umar Farooq Baqaida enter into Jerusalem and they take the keys of Jerusalem without any bloodshed from the Christian leaders. And then Sayyidina Umar Farooq establishes the covenant of Umar. The covenant of Umar. And the people of Jerusalem, the Muslims, Christians, Jews, Muslims and non-Muslims, they lived in peace in Jerusalem, established upon the covenant of Sayyidina Umar Farooq radiyallahu ta'ala anhu. Sayyidina Umar Farooq, when he arrived in Al-Masjid Al-Aqsa, he found that the site of Al-Masjid Al-Aqsa had been turned into a rubbish dump. The Christians, the Romans, they were using Al-Masjid Al-Aqsa as a skip, as a rubbish site. So when Sayyidina Umar Farooq radiyallahu ta'ala anhu, Baqaida entered into Al-Masjid Al-Aqsa, you want to listen to this. Sayyidina Umar didn't say, I'm the leader of the Muslims. The rest of you clean the masjid. And I'll watch you clean it. No. Sayyidina Umar himself began to clean the masjid, Al-Masjid Al-Aqsa. Aj today we put a WhatsApp group together and have a cleaning rota. Before Jummah, Thursday evening, cleaning rota. 1 week you will do it, 1 week you'll do it. A couple of weeks, yes. We're all on it because we've got that passion, that jazba. Some of us new into the committee, some of us new into the masjid, some of us we've got our foot into the door now. The youngsters are in. And then after a few weeks, tus. Is तरह ही होता ना. ये गौसिया मस्जिद की बात नहीं. ये ना समझो that I've been given some sort of top secret, top level information here, and I'm letting the cat out of the bag. No. ये पूरे मुल्क की बात है यार. Alhamdulillah, Faqih travels from up north to down south. Now we're international as well. We were in Holland in September as well. Probably for the first and last time. But we were there, Alhamdulillah. This happens everywhere. You shouldn't be embarrassed to come and clean the masjid. Masjid Allah ka ghar hai yaar. Where you and me spend hundreds and thousands on our homes, on our houses, on our bathrooms. But when it comes to the masjid, when it comes to giving chanda, we are not likh lija. Isna nahi hona chahiye. The masjid is the heart of the community. It's the hub of the community. And you should attach yourselves with your local Sunni masajid. Local Sunni masajid. After saying, are you with me so far? Thaki tanage. Some have already walked out. I think my approach and style for them is to be too hardcore. वो मिठिया मिठिया गल्लां लोने ना वो मेरे को मिठिया मिठिया नहीं हो जाएगा I am what I am. I got a book it, a spade, a spade. Chalo ji, maybe we'll take Husnul Zan. They had some sort of an appointment to go, dentist appointment at 9 o'clock. Here, Sayyidina Umar Farooq radiyallahu ta'ala anhu, after receiving the keys to Al-Masjid Al-Aqsa, the land of Jerusalem and Al-Aqsa remained with the Muslims for approximately 475 years. How many years? Also the Yad Rakso, how many years? Until eventually the Christian Crusaders, they took control of Jerusalem. Yani Jerusalem fell to the Christian Crusaders in 1099. It's a history for you. I said, why did the land of Jerusalem and Al-Masjid al-Aqsa fall into the hands of the Christian crusaders? One of the main reasons, where's my days are gone? One of the main reasons, there we are, one of the main reasons for the disloyalty for the land of Al-Aqsa and Jerusalem ending up with the Christian was because of the disloyalty of the Fatimid dynasty that ruled Egypt at the time. Can anyone tell me who the Fatimid dynasty were? Ji? Oh, nay. They were the Shias. They were the Shias. Without getting into too much of a discussion here now. Pehchan rakho yaar, asr aur naql ki pehchan rakho. So the disloyalty of the Fatimid dynasty was what led to the Christian crusaders taking control of Jerusalem. The crusaders entered Jerusalem with brutality, beheading people on the streets, whether they were young or old, healthy or sick, men or women. And the crusaders, they desecrated Al-Masjid al-Aqsa by turning some of the parts into stables for their horses. How many of you have been downstairs into the Marwani Masjid? You would have seen the huge pillars there, right? Original stone placed by the Jinnat in the time of Sulaiman al-Islam. But at the bottom now you see them holes where they dug into, and that's where they would tie their horses. Who? The Christian crusaders. So this is why Al-Aqsa cannot be in the hands of anyone other than the Muslims. Acha. I'm going to pick the speed up now. Every time. Until everybody walks out, I'm still here. Sultan Nuruddin Zangi Rahmatullah alayhi. Our ulama say, after the Khulafai Rashidin al-Mahdiyin, the greatest Muslim ruler in history was Sayyiduna Umar bin Abdul Aziz, rahimahullah ta'ala, from the Banu Umayyad. And Umar bin Abdul Aziz is referred to in the books of Aqaid, like Sharul Aqaid al-Nasafi, as Khalifa Khamis, Khalifa, the fifth caliph, Umar bin Abdul Aziz, from the offspring and from the descendants of Sayyidina Umar Farooq radiyallahu ta'ala. After Sayyidina Umar bin Abdul Aziz radiyallahu ta'ala, they said the greatest Muslim leader was Sultan Nuruddin Zangi rahmatullah alayhi. Why? Because of his piety and his knowledge, and he was a just ruler. You've heard that story when two people were trying to dig into the area where the Prophet ﷺ is resting. They disguised themselves to portray themselves as Muslims. In reality, they were Christians. And who did the Prophet ﷺ bless with his vision? Sultan Nuruddin Zangi rahmatullah alayhi. Mere Baba ji rahmatullah alayhi would often say, Alama Khadim Hussain Rizvi, that why was it that Nuruddin Zangi was blessed? Why not the other Hukmaran of that time? And this is one of the primary reasons why Nuruddin Zangi rahmatullah alayhi was blessed with the vision of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. And Nabi sallallahu alaihi wasallam told him that go to Al-Madinatul Munawwara. Two individuals are trying to get to my blessed resting place. Why Nuruddin Zangi? Why not anyone else? They said one of the reasons was that Nuruddin Zangi in Damascus, in Syria, and in the lands that he had control over, he would establish madaris, and he had scholars of hadith who would sit and teach the ahadith mubarakah of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. These are our true leaders. लेकिन आजकल के हुक्मरान, खास तौर हमारे मुल्क के पाकिस्तान के हुक्मरान, who can't even read Surah Al-Ikhlas properly, who are guilty of doing daka upon Aqidah Khatm Nabuwat. Especially what's happened recently in Pakistan, 2017, 2018, where Qadianis, Lahori Qadianis tried to amend the Article 295C in the Constitution of Pakistan, and this all happened under the watch of certain hukmaran. I don't want to take names, because again people will get offended. So I don't think we got many Pakistanis here. No? Chalo shukr. Oh, you're sorry. I don't want to offend you. आजकल के हुक्मरान देखो, उन्होंने बदमाशी देखो, उन्होंने यानी बगैरती देखो. the lack of iman, the lack of, just putting a statement up on Facebook or giving a good speech at the United Nations is not sufficient. These words need to be backed up with action. Our Palestinian brothers and sisters deserve military intervention. But everyone has their vested interests with the enemies who are guilty of this genocide against the Palestinians and the Zionist government of Israel. Let's call it for what it is. Money talks. Nuruddin Zangi had a dream, a vision, which he didn't fulfill during his lifetime, but he planted the seeds. Oh yeah, that we plant the seeds for our next generation, for the generation after that. His dream was what? He commissioned for a special wooden mimbar to be built. Though the mimbar was burnt in the fire in 1967, the Jordanians then built a replica, which you still see there today. But the original mimbar was commissioned by Nuruddin Zangi rahmatullah alayh, and it was built by a carpenter in Baghdad. देखो ना, ये unity है. Carpenter in Baghdad built the mimbar, commissioned by Nuruddin Zangi, who was in Syria. And then the mimbar then was put in place by the one who was in control of Egypt, Sultan Salahuddin al-Ayyubi, rahimahullah ta'ala. So Nuruddin Zangi passes away in 1174, and in 569 after Hijrah. To put this into perspective, 8 years after Huzur Ghaus Pak Shanshai Baghdad, Pire Pira, Mire Mira, Mahbub Subhani, Khutb Rabbani, Shahbaz al-Makani, Kindil Nurani al-Ghawth al-A'zam, Sheikh Sayyid Abdul Qadir al-Jilani, Al-Hassani wal-Husaini, radiyallahu ta'ala anhum, 8 years after Huzur Ghaus Pak did parda from this dunya. Nuruddin Zangi passes away. Are you with me? This is 6th year after Hijrah. My apologies, 6th century after Hijrah. His student, the famous Salahuddin al-Ayyubi, he then took control of the armies and the lands that belonged to his teacher Nuruddin Zangi. And then he united everyone united on his Aqidah. Or Salahuddin al-Ayyubi was Shafi'i. Thakiye gyo main shak hai. Mana thakiya. I'm not tired yet. Salahuddin al-Ayyubi Shafi'i. Muqallid of one of the 4 Imams. Ajkal jere kehne, no, you don't need Imam Abu Hanifa, you don't need Shafi, you don't need Maliki, you don't need Imam Ahmad bin Hanbal. And then go direct to Quran and Sunnah. Shakal tak tu pehle aapki. Tu jaise direct. My brother, it's not a PIA flight. And you're going to go direct. These great Imams have done the hard work for you and me. Follow their teachings. Do parody of one of them. Become one of the. ये देखो Salahuddin al-Ayyubi Shafi'i, Huzur Ghaus Pak Hanbali, Data Ali Hujwari Hanafi, Qadi Yazi Morocco Maliki. This is 4 examples of the 4 Imams here. And we can go through all the history like this as well. Imam Bukhari dekho Shafi'i, Ibn Hajar al-Asqalani dekho Shafi'i, Imam Jalaluddin Asyuti dekho Shafi'i. Lekin aajkal ka dawa man? Loose terms. I'm not attacking him, by the way. You know, samjho Chote Mian was after him for a few years now. Bare Mian started as well. Nahi yaar. We got nothing against anyone. But as soon as those people begin to compromise upon the principles of Quran and Sunnah, then they are on our radar. Salahuddin al-Ayyubi Shafi'i or Salahuddin al-Ayyubi Ashari. Ashari, samjhe na? There's 2 schools of creed of the Orthodox Sunni tradition, either Ashari or Mautaridi. Imam Abu Hassan al-Ashari or Imam Abu Mansur al-Mautaridi, rahimahumullah ta'ala. And we from the Indian subcontinent, we are Mautaridi. We are. And you say, who decided this for us? It was decided when you were born. Why? Because of geographical location. If you study the development of the madhahib, be it in terms of jurisprudence or fiqh, or in terms of creed, aqidah, the development of the madhahib is predominantly based upon location, geographical location. And because Imam Abu Mansur al-Mautaridi was originally from Mautaridi, Uzbekistan, modern day Uzbekistan. Uzbekistan is closer to the Indian subcontinent than where Imam Abu Hassan al-Ashari was from. Oh, it's still only 8 o'clock. Is that wrong? Is that right? It's only 8 o'clock yet. Oof, I've done half of my work already. I'm looking at that clock saying it's 9 o'clock. I was feeling good about myself, a little bit of a workout as well. Pura changa ghanta parsina kadiyai. That's why Hafiz Sahib keeps looking at it. It's only 8 o'clock. Allah, Drushi for Allah, Sayyidina Mawlana. Salahuddin al-Ayyubi liberated Jerusalem in 1187. And 22 years after Huzur Ghaus Pak leaves this dunya. And you would have heard this if you, I don't know, catch a few of my clips on social media, not saying that I'm promoting myself. Lekin, the Lashkar, the army of Salahuddin al-Ayyubi that liberated Jerusalem and conquered Al-Aqsa, half of the soldiers in his army were murids of Huzur Ghaus Pak Shahid. Go back, do your research. And the other half of his army, they were murids of Hujjatul Islam, Imam Abu Hamid al-Ghazali. Imam Abu Hamid al-Ghazali, who passed away in the year 505 after Hijrah. Yani murid ka murad here, students, or disciples. So Ahlul Tasawwuf, the men of spirituality and Ruhaniyat, they were the ones responsible for conquering Jerusalem and liberating Al-Masjid Al-Aqsa. Like today we find people who are against the Tasawwuf. That we as Sunnis, we promote those charlatans and fraudsters who have nothing to do with the Tasawwuf. Individuals who are more acquainted with blowing into microphones. ये हंसाने के लिए नहीं, रवाने के लिए यार, ये कौम की हालत है. The very same people who are guilty of missing their Fajr, Zohar, Asr, Maghrib and Isha. That when it comes to the fast of Ramadan, they will look for loopholes not to keep their fast. When it comes to the zakat, they will ring Imam Sahib, Mufti Sahib, Maulana Sahib, this is my masala, do I need to give my zakat? Hajj is fard upon them, they have the financial means, but they won't perform their Hajj. But they will look for easy options and go to these charlatans and fraudsters who today, nowadays, Adil Nuri Sahib, using their slippers and their shoes and their jutte to do ilaj of people. If you don't know, then you don't know, don't worry about it. But I reference him, why? Because he's in the circle. The baad ye clip viral ho jata, fir teri mashhuriyat ho jati na. Allah. Ye hamari kamzori hai. These people are being promoted in our masajid. I'm not talking about the Nath Khans and the North Khans and all these people. Ye hamara, hasne ki baat nahi yaar. You tell me if I'm wrong. You correct me if I'm wrong, yaar. Maybe bacha, yaar, I'm only 35. I only studied one book. I'm nothing, I'm no one. And that's not my agency, that's my reality. You tell me if I'm wrong. What are our priorities in? Our children are being brainwashed with the LGBTQ agenda. Me and Hafiz Asif Sahib talk about this often. And how our masajid are failing our children. Our A'imma are failing our next generation, our younger generation. And we as parents, because we are majboor, we don't have any alternative, we send our children now to the schools and the education system in this country, where they certainly won't teach them about the history of Palestine. They won't talk about the values and the sacrifices and the qurbaniya of the Palestinian people like they have regarding the people of Ukraine. You see how the double standards and the hypocrisy stinks? We're all caught up in the system. We're all caught up in the system. We don't want to bring about a change. Be it a change within ourselves, be it a change within our homes, be it a change within our families, a change within society at large. Allahu Akbar. So the true Sufiya are those that when difficult times came upon Islam, they didn't just sit in their hujra, linking the point that I've just mentioned to the point that I'm saying now. वो बस जी अपने हुजरे में तो नहीं सन बैठे हुए, तो तस्बीह पढ़ने सन, तो वज़ाइफ पढ़ने सन, तो नवाफिल पढ़ने सन, तो दुआवा मांगने सन. True Sufiya were those that they would be on the front line to defend Deen Islam. आजकल के सूफी नहीं. You find certain mashayikh and peer and ulama as well. When it comes to this mas'ala of Palestine, when it comes to Namus Risalat, Aqidah Khatm Nabuwat, the two biggest issues facing the Muslims today, illa mashallah, koi bolne waste tayar hi nahi. Some are worried about the masnad, others are worried about the murideen, some are worried about the madaris and the masajid, that the committees might throw them out and we might get reported to the officials, and MI5 we might end up on their radar, and this will happen and that. Kuch nahi honda yaar. Nothing will happen. And even if something does happen, at least you can hold your head high. And on the day of Qiyamah, when Nabi Islam asks you and me that you lived in that time, in that era, when Namus Risalat was being attacked, when Aqidah Khatm Nabuwat was being done hamla upon, what did you do? What was your kirdar? At least you can say, Ya Rasulullah, I was there. I raised my voice. I raised my voice. I stood up for your honor. I defended Aqidah Khatm Nabuwat. I spoke up for the Palestinians. Lekin nahi. Bas, ek chakkar hai na. I'm sorry to say. I said, we're in this field as well. We're in the same tabaqah. Whether they want to disown us or own us, that's their own choice. We're not looking for their approval. We're looking for acceptance in the court of Rasulullah. Khalas. You might say, you talk a good talk. Again, those who know me personally will know the struggles that I've been through over the last 3 years. Certainly since the Batli grammar school issue. And how as a trustee of Al-Hikam I had to resign simply because you openly said Qadiani are kafir. 3 years there's been a case on me from the charity commission. Why? Because we call Qadiani kafir. You know how only Imam Sahib is talking a good talk and pumping the crowd up. No, alhamdulillah. Not only do we talk the talk, but we walk the walk as well. But our head is still held high. So what? We're not a trustee on our own idara. So what? Rizq comes from Allah Almighty. Rizq doesn't come from the charity commission. Rizq doesn't come from the government. Rizq doesn't come from claiming benefits when you're not entitled to them. Rizq comes from Allah Almighty. For my youngsters who are still with me after an hour or so, it's quite warm and stuffy in here. I would suggest maybe opening a few windows. One now we'll find a few casualties by the end of the Qaeda program. What I'm trying to say is be confident. Dareri paida karo yaar. Buzdil na hoyo. Don't be buzdil. Be courageous. Be brave. Today we're worried about maybe losing our job if we put up a post for the Palestinians. Yes, this mentality, na? No. Liberation of Al-Quds, let's finish it off. After 88 years of tyranny, crusader, occupation of Jerusalem had come to an end. The Christians never occupied and captured Jerusalem thereafter. In contrast with the Crusaders, Salahuddin al-Ayyubi was an honorable and compassionate victor and is well respected by the Christians even till today. These are our asal role models and our true hukmaran. Allah Almighty grant us the likes of Salahuddin al-Ayyubi again. Then came the rule of the Ottomans. Somebody from Blackburn. 2018, first time I went to Jerusalem, I remember quite vividly walking through Al-Masjid Al-Aqsa compound. The dome of the Rock Masjid was around behind us. We used to come to our weekly lectures in Masjid Awais Karni in Ilford. But aise baad mulkaat hui. Imam sahab kya hai? Theek ho, khairiyat hai. Let's Imam sahab go for iftari. Main theek. Imam bola fir thoda 2018. Imam said, do you watch Atragol, do they call it? Atragol? Ye kuch hai. Turkish series on the Ottomans. Imam said, do you watch it? I stopped there and then. Now do you assume that I've got what? Is I think 1 hour an episode or something like this? 2 hours. Man, you think I've got 2 hours to just sit around watching an episode of this TV series? So changa chhadya uski. Don't waste your time on these things. Chalo, you'll see from these things how the Turks, central to everything was what? They love for Rasulullah. That's why they were successful in ruling over 2/3 of the Muslim world for 600 years or so. And during their rule, from 1299 up until 1922, Jerusalem was a part of their territory. During this time, there was the birth of Zionism. Are you still with me? Theodore Herzl, the founder of the Zionist movement. So the Jews had long dreamed of creating a Jewish state where Jews could be the majority. This is where Zionism started to take root in the 1800s. The Zionists made great effort to get Christians and European countries on their side and to gain political influence in order to fulfill their aims. And alongside European countries, the most influential country to support the Zionist movement is the United States of. And we saw this 2 days ago in the vote in United Nations. Out of 14 countries, the only country to veto was the US. हमारे UK वाले था वो बिली बनेगा बिली abstain. Very diplomatic of them. And speaking of democracy and diplomacy, it's probably quite clear that the general elections are around the corner. When these Muslim MPs and non-Muslim come knocking on our doors looking for votes, what are you going to do? Slam the door in their face. That's what you should do. Don't forget. People say we want rid of the conservatives because of the austerity policy. 13 years of austerity has been. Let's vote the Labour Party in. But now the Labour Party is not the Labour Party when we were growing up. Education, education, education. The famous speech in 1997 by TVE. But now, today's Labour Party, pro-LGBTQ+, and pro-Zionism. The leader of the party, you can edit this later, it's probably a bit late for editing now. All gone live. You know, your mistake gets blacklisted as well. Allah. Nahi committee aaya, you know, by tomorrow everyone has to resign. Allah. Sultan Abdul Hamid II. Goosebumps, yeah. Goosebumps. But our youngsters are more acquainted with Messi and Ronaldo, Pacino and De Niro, and Denzel Washington. Our youngsters don't know the likes of Shihabuddin Ghori, or Muhammad bin Qasim, or Tariq ibn Ziyad, or Nuruddin Zangi, or Salahuddin al-Ayyubi, or Sultan Abdul Hamid II, or Khalid bin Walid, or Umar Farooq radiyallahu ta'ala anhum. Youngsters, snap out of it. Wake up before it's too late. Stand up and be counted. They offered him millions of pounds of gold to allow the Jews to migrate to Palestine. 1897 ki baat hai na? Our great-great-grandfather's time. The year 1315 after Hijrah, as you can see on the board, screen, Chadar. So he refused. Read the statement. I cannot sell even an inch of this land because these lands do not belong to me, but they belong to my nation. Nation ka murad here wasn't the Ottomans. Nation ka murad here was Ummat Mustafa sallallahu alaihi wasallam. And then Sultan Abdul Hamid II said what? That my nation earned this empire by fighting and bleeding. These lands could be taken from us only by blood. And the Ottomans were ready to defend the Palestinians, defend Al-Aqsa, defend Jerusalem. But are we ready to defend them? We're tired and fatigued now of hearing it and seeing it on our social media feeds. And the Imam Sahib making dua for Al-Quds and Jerusalem and the liberation of the Palestinian people. Don't be tired. Insan comes from the root word nasiya. One root word. Nasiya means to forget. And this is human nature that naturally we forget. This is why I salute the committee and the Imam Hazrat of this masjid, that they utilize this monthly Yarishif gathering, this particular gathering for the youngsters, to talk about Palestine. I said this to the people in Telford as well. Next week we're in Stoke as well, to deliver the same PowerPoint. And then our Principles of Creed End of Time tour starts on the 23rd of December in East London, Masjid-e-Quba. But nevertheless, we will, and inshallah we will continue raising our voices for the Palestinians. Because we are the voice of the voiceless. And this genocide which is happening, which is being normalized, we should not allow this to continue. We should ask for an immediate, permanent ceasefire. Immediate, permanent, not temporary. Like they had one a couple of weeks ago, 5-day temporary ceasefire, and then the very next day, IDF start bombing the Muslims in Gaza, and in one day, 700 Muslims became shaheed. In the last 60 days or so, since the 7th of October, there's been no greater number of casualties on one day than on that day, the day after the temporary ceasefire stopped. As I mentioned at the beginning, the oldest masjid in Gaza was bombed on Friday, destroyed. And this isn't just against the Muslims, the Christians in Gaza as well. For those of you who don't know, Gaza we call it, 25 miles from north to south, 5 miles from east to west. The most populated area, strip, land in the whole of the earth. Over 2.2 million population in Gaza. And over 1.5 million of them have been displaced from their homes. Can you imagine that? Imagine somebody coming to my house in Bradford, your house here in Blackburn, knocking on the door at midnight and saying, get out. You can't get your stuff, you can't get your provisions, you can't get your blanket, you can't get your bags, you can't get your belongings, you can't get your grandfather's pictures, you can't get your grandmother's jewel, nothing. And there'll be uproar. Our human rights haven't been fulfilled. But because it's not happening to you and me, it's alright. We change our DP picture for a few days, we put up a few posts on social media, we say what people want to hear. We portray this image that we are pro-Palestine. Remember, after a few weeks, after a few months, after a few years, those were reactory people. Reaction rather than proaction. Enough is enough. I've got a couple more slides and I'm done. I think everyone should stand up for a couple of minutes. Stand up, stretch your legs. I can have a water break as well. Those who want to leave with the brother who's leaving now is your chance, inshallah. Thank you very much for coming. Tusavi thaki gyo na, ube gal hoyi gya na. Bismillah. Drushi par Allahumma salli ala Sayyidina. Last couple of slides and we're done. We're done. So far so good. Hopefully you're learning. Muslim disunity, surprise, surprise, strikes again. So the Ottomans collapsed after World War I. Kemal Atatürk, a name no doubt you would have heard of, the founder of modern Turkey, the liberal, modern thinker. Him and the Arabs, they wanted to break away from the Ottoman rule and the remains of the Ottoman rule. So they revolted against the Ottomans. in the name of Arab nationalism. So if there's one underlining factor that has led to the fall of the Khilafah, it is nationalism. Nationalism. It still exists today, right? Egypt, Jordan, Lebanon, the countries surrounding Palestine. The only reason why they won't send their troops in, why they won't speak up, why they won't take action is why? Because their own national interests mean more to them than the Palestinian lives. This is why the blood of the Palestinians is not just upon the MPs of this country, not just upon those in Congress in the United States, not just upon the hands of those in the United Nations, but the blood of the Palestinians is also upon the hands of those Muslim rulers and nations that are watching the massacre and genocide taking place at this moment in time, and they refuse to take action. After Balfour, the Balfour Declaration, 2nd of November 1917, World War I has ended, the Allies victorious. The British Foreign Secretary, who was the MP of Manchester East, Arthur Balfour, he was a Christian Zionist. So Zionism isn't just for the Jews. You've got Christian Zionism. You've got Joe Biden and Joe Biden. President of America. What's left of him? Buddha Kora. Marna hi nahi na. He's a Christian Zionist. And then the only thing we were waiting for was for some Pakistani to stand up and say that I'm also a Zionist. Did you see that guy on TikTok? Gee? One guy from Pakistan. Thankfully he wasn't from Mirpur. Because most dodgy guys are from Mirpur. He goes, I'm a Zionist as well. Pakistani Zionist. What a Muslim Zionist, sorry. तू ही रहना से है अजीब बात है यार. You see the influence of these individuals, this movement, what's happening through media, through entertainment, through music, sports, government circles being lobbied by the Zionist movement, all in preparation for Dajjal. If you start that discussion, we'll be here for a lot longer, but nevertheless, Balfour Declaration declared that Palestine was going to be the homeland of the Jewish people. Did they have any right to do this? This was how many years ago from today? Now, 106 years ago. British mandate for Palestine. 25th of April 1920, the League of Nations, which is now United Nations, gave Britain authority over Palestine. Surprise, surprise. During the next 2 decades, from 1920 till just before the start of the Second World War, over 100,000 Jews entered into Palestine. You would have seen the pictures and the images of how the Palestinians welcomed them with open arms. But little did they know the sinister intentions and motives of these individuals. The British Army's operations during this period were mainly directed against Arab groups opposed to this mass Jewish immigration. So there was still some ghairat in the leaders of that time. This is our grandfather's time now. World War II happens. After World War II, and then we know what happened in World War II, right? Adolf Hitler, he says, I'm only going to leave a few of them so that you can see and realize why. These are historical facts before somebody throws the anti-Semitic card at us. 1948, 1 year after the partition of Pakistan, India and Bangladesh. That was in 1947. Qaid-e-Azam Muhammad Ali Jinnah, Musawwir Pakistan Allama Muhammad Iqbal, Rahimahumullah Ta'ala. That was in 1947. 1948, following year, Britain pulled its troops out of Palestine, leaving the Jews and the Arabs to fight it out in the war that followed. Are you following? Picking up the speed. 1948 Al-Nakba, the catastrophe, the Arab-Israeli war of 1948. The Arab nations were disunited and proved to be no match for the well-funded, well-trained Israelis. By the end of 1948, the Jews had destroyed 478 out of 585 Palestinian villages. Read that back to yourselves. This was then. History does not remember those leaders and those people favorably. Now. What's happening now, as we speak, is twice, if not 3 times as worse than what happened in 1948. Do you think history will remember you and me favorably? Those who chose to remain silent, those who got tired and fatigued, those who were worried about their positions and their madaris and their masajid, those Muslim MPs who were worried about their seats, those Muslim councillors who were worried about their votes. Do you think history will remember us favorably? Bolo na. This is why we are here, to raise awareness. Stand up and be counted. Raise your voices. And don't be silenced. 750,000 Palestinians fled or were expelled from their homes. 78% of Palestinian territory was taken forcefully from them by the Zionist Israelis. This was then, just over 70 years ago. Pictures always work nice. And you can tell a bit of effort has been put into this PowerPoint. This is 1917, pre-British mandate. This area green for Gumbad-e Khazra. This area green, all of it represents what belonged to the Palestinians. This is pre-British mandate, pre-World War I, or towards the end of World War I. The blue represents the small areas that the Jewish community had. October 31st, 1917, British forces conquered Palestine from the Ottoman Turks, ending the 1400 years of Islamic rule over the region. Before the British mandate in Palestine, Jews made up around 6% of the total population. Everyone seen the image? Just in case you didn't know. This is post-World War II now, for 1948. Palestinians expelled. Which color was it that represented the Palestinians? Well, now you can see the green. Either the West Bank or the Muslims in the East, in Gaza. The Zionist military forces expelled at least 750,000 Palestinians, as we just mentioned. Captured 78% of historic Palestine. Only 22% of this land that belongs to the Palestinians remained with the Palestinians. The State of Israel, 1949, most countries recognize the State of Israel. And even after the State of Israel was declared, the Zionists committed further massacres and ethnic cleansing. One word we've not mentioned yet. Ethnic cleansing. Despite these war crimes, and they were still supported by the Americans and the European nations. And who supports them? Through the Starbucks and the McDonald's and Nestle and Disney Plus and Paramount and all these things that we can't live without. Because we're in the system, right? We're caught up. And you might say, I'm always talking a good talk. Chalo ji, aisa na kam has come to talk. Nobody else will say it. And these boycotts last for a few days, a few weeks, again in the moment. And don't think that these boycotts are not having an effect. You've seen the numbers, you've seen how the share prices of these multi-billion-dollar companies have fallen over the last several weeks. How they're now forced to close their outlets and their shops in countries like Morocco and Egypt, as we've read. Though why you and me are in McDonald's in the first place, I don't know. So they were there for the Makfuris, huh? Husnus. Ajeeb baat hai yaar. We as Muslims need to become powerful within ourselves. We need to provide alternatives for our children, for the younger generation. Varna, the consequences and repercussions of what's happening is before your very eyes. 1967, we're nearly there. And Aqsa, the setback. So, between 48 and 67. 67 when most of our parents were born, 60s. Yeah. My dad was born in late 60s. My mum was born in the late 60s. So we can relate to this now. This is not one generation before us. So what happened was in June 1967, everything came to a head, resulting in a 6-day war. Even though the Arabs were greater in number, the Israeli tactics massively defeated the Arabs. Death toll, 13,300 Arabs. 779 Israelis. Look at the numbers here. On this side here, all of the Arabs, 547,000 troops, just over 500,000. And the Israelis, just over 250,000. Aftermath. The defeat of the Arabs allowed Israel to occupy the West Bank, Gaza, areas of Syria and Egypt and the rest of Palestine. This included the annexation of East Jerusalem. So that 780 years of Muslim rule of Al-Masjid al-Aqsa was now in the Jewish hands. The number one priority for the Muslims is Al-Aqsa. The number one priority for the Muslims is the honor of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam and Aqidah Khatm Nabuwwat. So you find that these are number one issues for you and me, or should be for you and me. But our issues are, and our priorities are more whether Manchester United are going to turn the corner. Ten Hag is going to actually finally figure out the winning formula. Or Man City only won one game in 5 now, and they can't play without Rodri. These are our conversations. And they can't play without Rodri. Or the cricket, what's the cricket? World Cup was it? ICC 50 over World Cup, or the boxing, or the UFC. These are our interests. And if it's not sports, then it's entertainment. If it's not entertainment, then it's music. We need to make this choice, and we need to make these decisions. And then the last picture here, 1967, Israel occupies Gaza and the West Bank. In 1967, on the back of what happened in 1940, a further 300,000 Palestinians were expelled from their homes. If somebody comes midnight today, get out. Move from Blackburn to, I don't know, Bradford. That would be a punishment for somebody. How would we feel? Even then we'll have some rights. So the Bradford, Jari and Imam Sahib, we'll go sleep in Al-Hikam. We were made to leave Blackburn and go to an area and a land where we had no contacts, no people that we know, no provisions, no medicine, no access to doctors and nurses. This is what's happening, isn't it? No internet, blackout, no communication with the outside world. Nobody knows what's happening to us. If this was us in their shoes, how would we feel? But because it's not happening to us, because it's fine. So alright, Imam Sahib will go over by 10 minutes, we're still going to go home and turn the heating up and tell our mum that Imam Sahib talked a good talk and tell our wife, yeah, the Maulvi's on it. Mad Maulvi from Bradford. And this is what we do post-mortem karne na. Hafiz Asif, yeah, Maulvi Sahib's alright, call him next time as well. Oh no, he's no good, write off kari yourself. Do galna. Either you write me off or you say, yeah, you can come next time in about 5 years. When he's a bit more calm. But yeah, you'll see now. We'll go and we'll have a quick scran on Wali Range Road, is it? In Wali Range? Yeah, no. And you might say, Mom, so what do you want us to do? Well, I've already said what we need to do. But further to that, To conclude, my very last slide, by the way. Yeah? We're done. So just before you think, oh yeah, you said last slide for the last 20 minutes. What can we do? Number one, keep making du'as for the Palestinians. Oh, by Allah. Yes, make dua for them. But they're not in need of our du'as. The reality is we are in need of their du'as. This isn't a test for them. This is a test for you and me. I've already told you. You've seen the videos. That on one hand, their children are being martyred. On the other hand, they're saying, Alhamdulillahi ala kulli hal. All praise be to Allah in every state. Allah. But that doesn't mean we stop making dua. Dua is the weapon of the believer. Dua is the weapon of the believer. Number two, I'll come back to number three. Use your voice and speak up for those who are suffering. Raise awareness. The very least we can do every day. There's so much out there on Instagram, on Facebook, on what else is there? TalkTake. That at least we can do is share the post. Again, we're scared out. We were worried. You know, when boss finds out at work and that's it. We come in on Monday morning and he says, "Pack your bags, you're done." Why? Because you support the Palestine. And so what? Yeah, you'll find another job. You see the double standards of the West and the hypocrisy of the media. That if somebody flies the Ukrainian flag, they are branded a hero. Kya na uska left back for Arsenal, Zinchenko? The very same club when Mesut Ozil is it? Ozil? When he spoke out in favor of the Uyghur Muslims in China who were suffering, were still suffering in concentration camps, you see how these very same football clubs that we idolize, we spend hundreds and thousands going and watching their matches and so on and so forth. Nizam hai unka, entertainment hai na. We're sucked into it. Our children as well. Daughters, our sons. We need to keep raising awareness and attend protests and sign petitions. Be productive. It's pretty simple, isn't it? Don't get tired. Don't be fatigued. Keep raising your voices. Number four, well, you've done number four today, alhamdulillah. What time are we on? An hour and 45 minutes later, you've certainly achieved number four. Read up and educate yourself on the history of Palestine. Be honest, you're sat in the masjid, not to make me happy, main to waise happy, na? How many of you can say now, after an hour and 45 minutes, you're more confident regarding the history of Palestine than you were at 7 o'clock? Hands right up in the air. Ask if you need to take a look here. You need to look at everybody's hands. Hands right, mashallah, uncle's got two hands up there, mashallah. Be careful, somebody might dip into your pockets. Always keep one hand down, tip of the tray. Allah bless each and every one of you. Masjid vichi baithe sana. We ghibat nahi se hoyi. We weren't backbiting. We were sat in the best of places. Al-masajidu ahabbul biladi ila Allah ta'ala masajiduha wa abghadul biladi ila Allah ta'ala aswaquha. And then going back to the last point here, number two, what can we do? Change yourself and become a better Muslim and a stronger believer. Allah Almighty says in Surah Al-Ra'd, Inna Allah la yughayyiru ma biqawmin hatta yughayyiru ma bi anfusihim. Allah Almighty will not change the state of a nation until those people change themselves. Apne man mein dubo. If you and me are struggling to wake up for Fajr in the morning, with respect, what good is it attending protests in the afternoon? If you and me are struggling to attend classes of knowledge, durus of Quran and Hadith in our local masajid, Sunni masajid, during the evenings, then what good is it attending protests in the afternoon? Are you with me? So change comes from within. Don't worry about what next man's doing. Ask yourself, what are you doing? We're busy pointing fingers at everyone else. You've had the old cliche. when you point one finger at someone else, 3 fingers point back at you. So are we strong believers? Are we strong in our iman? These are questions we should ask ourselves. Do we have loyalty to Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam? Loyalty to his family and to his companions? Ridwanullahi ta'ala alayhim ajma'een. Do we support the Palestinian cause? Not just for a few days because it's the trend and it's going viral and there's a hype. Are we actually going to continue raising awareness for them every single day of our lives? By Allah, you and me will be asked about this. ये क़यामत के दिन पर पूछो सी ना, दूध का दूध पानी का पानी on that day. And Allah Almighty will ask us, what did you do for the Palestinians? You had social media, you had the finances, you had the wasail, you couldn't even book a ticket and go and see Al-Masjid Al-Aqsa. You couldn't send your money through reliable, verified charities and help those who are providing aid on the ground to the Palestinians. Kya jawab de sir? You could have come and attend a lecture in your local Sunni masjid and learn about the history of Palestine. What answer are we going to give? I feel more than enough has been said. Allah Almighty allow me and allow you to do amal upon what has been said. Allah Almighty grant us istiqamat upon the deen. Steadfastness upon Aqidah Ahl Sunnati wal Jama'ah. एक शेर सलातु सलाम के लिए सुफियान भाई चलेंगे, थक गए बशक है जी। आदिल नूरी साहब आओ जी, बिस्मिल्लाह जनाब। उठो जी, सलातु सलाम के लिए एक शेर, फिर उसके बाद मुख्तसर इज्तिमाई दुआ, and then you are free to leave. जज़ाकुमुल्लाह खैर।
मुस्तफा जाने रहमत पेला हो सलाम शमए बज़ में हिदायत पेला हो सलाम फ़तह बाबे नबूवत पे हद तोड़ोद ख़त्मे दौड़े रिसालत भेदा हो सलाम काश महशर में जाकर उनकी आमद हो और भेजे सब उनकी शौकत पैदा हो सलाम मुझसे खिदमत के कुदसी कहे हारज़ा मुझसे खिदमत के कुदसी कहे हारज़ा मुस्तफ़ा जाने रहमत पेला हो सलाम शमए बज़ में हिदायत पेला हो सलाम।
सलातु वस्सलामु अलैका या सय्यदी या रसूलल्लाह व अला आलिका व अस्हाबिका या सय्यदी या खातमन नबिय्यीन। एक बार सूरह फातिहा शरीफ, 3 बार सूरह इखलास शरीफ और आखिर दुरूद शरीफ, खास तौर with the intention that we're reading for the martyrs of Gaza, the 20,000 or so, more than 20,000 who have lost their lives innocently over the last 60 days, and those who have lost their lives over the last several decades. Allah Almighty raise all of their darajat in the akhirah. Allahumma salli ala sayyidina Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. Alhamdulillahi Rabbil Alamin. Maliki yawmiddin. Iyyaka na'budu wa iyyaka nasta'in. Ihdinas siratal mustaqim. Siratal ladzina an'amta alayhim ghayril maghdubi alayhim. Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. Qul huwallahu آمين. اللهم صل على سيدنا ونبينا وشفينا ومولانا محمد عبدك ورسولك ونبيك وصل على المؤمنين والمؤمنات والمسلمين والمسلمات. ربنا آتنا في الدنيا حسنة وفي الآخرة حسنة وقنا عذاب النار وقنا عذاب القبر وقنا عذاب الحشر وقنا عذاب الميزان وأدخلنا الجنة مع الأبرار يا عزيز يا غفار يا رب العالمين. اللهم إنا نسألك العفو والعافية في الدين
والدنيا والآخرة. اللهم إنا نسألك الهدى والتقى والعفاف والغنى. اللهم إنا نسألك إيمانا كاملا ورزقا طيبا وعلما نافعا وعملا متقبلا وشفاء من كل داء بوسيلة سيد الأبرار. يا مقلب القلوب ثبت قلوبنا على دينك. يا مصرف القلوب صرف قلوبنا على طاعتك. يا الله يا رحمن يا رحيم يا حنان يا منان يا ذا الجلال والإكرام. Accept this mahfil majlis in your barakah. Salatul Isha Jamaat that the Brotherhan have offered, and gathering with the tilawat of the Quran, Na'ah Sharif in the praise of Rasul Akram Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam, Bayan light of Quran and Sunnah, the history of Palestine, the importance of Al-Masjid Al-Aqsa. Ya Allah, we ask you to accept all of this in your barakah. Suratul Fatiha Sharif, Suratul Ikhlas Sharif ki tilawat, and all of the good that we have participated in this majlis, Ya Allah, we ask you to accept all of this in your barakah. Let the reward of this mahfil majlis, everything that we have mentioned or we haven't mentioned, no doubt is in your knowledge. We convey first and foremost, Hadiyatan, Tawfatan, Aqidatan, Muhabbatan, Adaban, to the barakah of Huzur Jani Jana, Tajdari Madina, Nur Sina, Lajfa Nabi Kareem Rasul Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam. Ya Allah, then to the Sina Master of Islam, Waslam, the Wasul to Fair, Lajfa Nabi Kareem Rasul Khatam Nabiyin, Rahmatullahi Alamin, Shafi'ul Mudribin, Wajib Takhliq Kainat. Let the reward of this mahfil majlis, حرف بالخصوص آيات مقدسات that we have recited by way of Isa al-Thawab. We convey to all of the Anbiya wal Mursaleen, Kul Sahaba Ikram, Ahlul Bayt, Adhar, Azwaj, Mutahharat, Walidain, Karimain, Ulad Pak, Rasul Akram Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam, Shuhadai Badr, Shuhadai Uhud, Shuhadai Imam, Shuhadai Karbala. Bilkhusus all of the Awliya, Sufiya, Ulama, Mujtahideen, Mufassirin, Muhaddithin, Aimai Tariqat, Aimai Shariat, Shuhadai Ummah, Sulahain, Mutawdi Ahli Sunnati wal Jama'ah. From Imam Azam, Imam Abu Hanifa, Rahimahullah Ta'ala, all the way to Amirul Mujahideen, Fanafi Khatam Nabiyyin, Alama Khadim Hussain Rizvi Rahmatullahi Ta'ala alayhi. Ya Allah, we ask you to all of our Qabileen, raise all of their darajat in the akhirah. Allow us to benefit from their views of barakah. Allow us to follow in their naqsh qadam. Allow us to adopt the same aqidah as Huzur Khos Baksh and Shahib Abdal. Allow us to have the same aqidah as Dat Ali Hujweri Rahmatullahi alayhi. Allow us to have the same aqidah as Sultan Salahuddin al-Ayyubi. Allow us to have the same aqidah as Ala Hazrat Imam Adil Shahzad. Ya Allah, then through their views of barakah, we make sincere dua. Let the reward be conveyed to all those Palestinian brothers and sisters, young and old, Ya Allah, who have lost their lives and left this dunya over the last several weeks and months. Bil khusus, Ya Allah, we ask you to raise all of their darajat in the akhirah. Over 20,000 Muslims in Gaza who have innocently lost their lives due to the brutality and the genocide which is being committed by the IDF, the Zionist government of Israel. Ya Allah, we ask you to raise all of their darajat in the akhirah. The perpetrators of these crimes, Ya Allah, bring them to justice in the dunya. Ya Allah, no doubt bring them to justice on the day of Qiyamah as well. Ya Allah, make them zaleel in the dunya. Ya Allah, we ask you whatever evil plans they may have, no doubt our iman, wallahu khairul makirin. Oh Allah, you are the best of planners. Ya Allah, destroy all of their evil plans. Ya Allah, bring them to justice. Ya Allah, we ask of you, our Palestinian brothers and sisters who are suffering, remove their suffering for them. Alleviate their difficulties and hardships for them. Ya Allah, they have quwwat iman and they have quwwat Islam that we are lacking today. Ya Allah, we ask of you, allow us to be brave and courageous to continue raising our voices and raising awareness for the Palestinian brothers and sisters. For the Muslims suffering in Indian occupied Kashmir. For the Muslims suffering on the borders of Burma and Bangladesh. The Muslims who are suffering in Sudan, in Syria, in Yemen. Weaker Muslims in concentration camps in China. Wherever the Ummatis are suffering, Ya Allah, remove their suffering for them. Ya Allah, assist the Palestinian brothers just like you assisted the Sahaba Ikram on the day of the Battle of Badr. وَلَقَدْ نَصَرَكُمُ اللَّهُ بِبَدْرٍ وَأَنْتُمْ أَذِلَّةٌ. When 5,000 angels came down from the heavens, Jibreel al-Islam came down on that day. Mikael al-Islam came down on that day. Ya Allah, we ask of you, through your Ghaibana Madad, through your unseen help and assistance, Ya Allah, give help and assistance to the Palestinian brothers and sisters. Ya Allah, we ask of you, remove their suffering for them. We have seen through through the images and through the videos with our own eyes that they don't desire the dunya. The love of the dunya has been taken out of their hearts. Ya Allah, we ask you to take the love of the dunya out of our hearts as well. Place the love of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam into our hearts. Diyar ishq mein apna maqam paida kar, naya zamana, naya subh ho sham. Paida kar, Ya Allah, allow us to drown ourselves in the ocean of the ishq and gulami and muhabbat of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. All those who are in attendance, who are shamil in this dua, those who are in attendance and who got tired and left, Ya Allah, we make dua for them as well. Brothers, sisters, those who are in the masjid, those who are watching online as well.
Ya Allah, give each and every one of them ajr wa jaza fil daarin. Ya Allah, we ask of you that allow us to become the voice pieces of the Palestinians and raise awareness of the history of Palestine and the importance of Al-Masjid Al-Aqsa. Our Intizamiya bil Khusus, Muhtaram Sufyan Bhai, Hafiz Hasib Bhai, Sajid Saab, and the rest of the team, Ya Allah, who have arranged this gathering and who have motivated the youngsters to attend this mahfil majlis. Ya Allah, give them ajr wa jaza fil daarin. Ya Allah, those buzurg who were responsible for establishing this Markazi Sunni Masjid here in Blackburn and all of the Sunni Masajid in Blackburn. Ya Allah, give them buzurg. If they have left this dunya, the highest maqam in Jannah. And if they are still alive, grant them long and healthy life. Ya Allah, accept our du'as in your barakah. Those who are in parshan halat, remove their parshaniya from them. Ya Allah, grant us all aman, sakun, and salam in the dunya, kamyabi in the akhirah, steadfastness upon our deen, firmness upon aqidah ahli sunnati wal jama'ah. Ya Allah, those who are bamar, grant them shifa kamina ajila nafiya. Ya Allah, whatever name du'as we may have in our hearts at this moment in time, you are alimun bidati sudu. Accept all of our name du'as in your barakah. The problems that we discussed, Dorani Guftagu, allow us to find the solutions to these problems. Allow us not to be those who contribute to the problems even more. Ya Allah, protect our children from the evils and vices of society. Wa sallallahu ta'ala ala habibihi Muhammadin wa ala alihi wa sahbihi ajma'in. Irhamna ya Mawlana bi rahmatika ya arhamar rahimin. Jazakumullah khair. Kindly make your way home, inshallah, straight home.